Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Broadway Jets YouTube channel. You'll know me from Twitter as NYJ Mike. I'm joined as always by the master of receipts, NYJ Matt. And Matt, the New York Jets hired Aaron Glenn a few days ago to be their 22nd head coach. They have a new general manager, and we're trying to figure out how to pronounce his name.
I think it's Darren Muji.
Like
Muji, I'm pretty sure.
Like Moo Dang?
Yeah. It could be Moogie. I've seen it a few different ways.
I think it's Muji.
I think it is Muji.
On the Broncos, whatever, like what's it called when you get the thing before the game with all the players and the coaches?
Phonetic? Is it phonetic? Isn't it phonetic
Yes,
spelling?
but like the overall, like the it's like a little magazine that you get.
Yeah.
Yes, on the phonetic sheet in whatever I'm talking about is Moogee.
Yeah.
So I guess that could be Moogie, but I think G is like Muji.
Wow, we figured it out. But yeah, the new GM finally here. First reported by Josina Anderson. People are giving Josina a lot of credit, rightfully so, but she did go radio silent for a full day after tweeting out that he was going to be the next GM.
Tough. She could have got a lucky break there, Matt. You know?
You know what it reminds me of? And this is a very bad analogy. You might be listening to this and being like, what are you talking about? If you remember, Trevor Bauer was a free agent and was going to be a Met, and they released on his site Mets gear. So there's a clip of Trevor Bauer and his agent doing like a documentary. He's like, we have to go to New York now. Like, you can't do that and then not go. I wonder if like a very small part of Woody Johnson's like, Josina put it out, like it's going to look bad if we don't hire him. So fuck it, we're going to hire him. I don't think that's the case. But yeah, he beat out, I forget his name now. Newmark, who just had to bomb the second interview.
It must have been terrible, Matt. It was like a done deal.
He felt like a weird guy. Like, even all the photos, he never looked like stoic or like every photo he looked like he didn't want to be taking a picture of. He just looked awkward. And I don't know if that is going to be the leader of men from a general manager that you need. And one thing about Mooj, he seems like a pro. Football guy. You see the highlight film I put out?
Right. Big dude, 6'6". I saw a video of Michael Rappaport talking about Barron Trump after the inauguration. And I didn't want to post it because it's just going to be annoying, but it's big body Barron. Big body Darren. This guy's 6'8".
Dude, we were at the dinner table with my in-laws, and I just was like, before anybody does it, I need to find San Diego State 2008, 2009 clips, and I just kept looking for number 4 in every clip, and he's not terrible, but he had like 30 catches and 4 touchdowns. And my favorite part is that it was 2008 highlight tape of the entire offense, and it was to the song Move Along, which was a banger back in 2008. And it's just like I had to like edit the whole thing, and I got it out, and good video. But Mike, new GM, new era technically now in place, both being introduced on Monday. Feels good.
It feels good. Well, the first thing we look at are the Muji had 4 drafts with Denver and looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So the main guys, he took Pat Surtain, was probably his best pick. He took the outside linebacker that was terrific this year. He took Bo Nix, obviously, but how much of that is Sean Payton? Javonte Williams. I'm not looking at it, so this is just trying to think of other guys. The Broncos center they have for the last 4 years.
Marvin Mims, I believe, might
Marvin Mims, another guy. So like and it seems like most of the guys they took are still on the roster at least. So, you don't see like when you look at the draft class and everyone's lit up bold, guys are still playing.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing. You look at some of those old John Idzik drafts for the Jets. There's like
the next year, guys. All of them are grayed out except for Quincy Enunwa.
Yeah, guys are playing in Canada and shit. I mean, listen, Matt, I thought the Broncos coming to this year were going to be one of the worst teams in football. We were very upset that the Jets lost to the Broncos week 4 because it felt like a very winnable game, etc. Very impressive the way that the roster turned it over. Defense Bo Nix really 29 touchdowns, 3,700 yards, very impressive. So
while you're in cap hell too, like at the time, I think we all would agree that the Broncos made a good trade to get Russell Wilson. You needed to bring in a quarterback.
yes,
And that trade did not work out, right? I'm not saying it's a good trade in hindsight, but I don't fault them for making that move. And Russell Wilson had a good year in Pittsburgh, so he was still adequate to be a normal quarterback in the NFL. But then you're in cap hell. Like they were in that. That's also why, Mike, people thought they're going to be terrible. It's like, how can you build around a team that has so much money in dead cap, and they got a young quarterback who played well? Denver also has a huge advantage playing where they do. The elevation, you win home games, but you give them credit.
After the game, yeah,
they go on the road and win football games. So
that is impressive.
They've earned it. And look, you see the clips from post draft press conferences that he's on the stage as the assistant GM, and doesn't blow you away in terms of confidence. I remember I saw one clip where he talked about Nathaniel Hackett and Russell Wilson, and I think in a 45-second clip said the word new energy 9 times. So he's obviously a younger guy, not as seasoned, 39 years old, 39. But he's been in every single role, area scout, pro scout, director of player personnel, assistant GM.
Very similar to Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn was started as a scout, positions coach, more in tune with the whole defense, then defensive coordinator, yada, yada. Now he's the head coach. No, Matt, and it's good. I am glad that Muji traded for Russell Wilson at the time he did. I thought it was a great move at the time. Then you go on and you draft a young quarterback who turns out to be good. So those are the two areas. Like, you're willing to go out and spend your capital and bring in a blockbuster older quarterback, and you're also willing to draft a quarterback in mid-first round, and they got a good one. So, and we'll see what Muji wants to do with Rodgers and negotiating the dead cap he's done in the past. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and I think I truly believe, and I know you'll see numbers out there. I know Joe Caporoso, his number is like a 20% chance of Rodgers coming back. I think it's much, much higher. I think it
feels like 95% chance.
If you're a new GM, and it is different if the Jets had a top 3 pick. They're a very, very different environment.
For sure.
But you have the 7th pick, and it all starts with, does Rodgers want to play again? If he retires, you can do nothing about it. Shake his hand, say it didn't work out, move on. If he doesn't retire, then the next domino falls of, will he take a cap hit? And you make the argument, if he does not want to take a cap hit, which he said he would, another strong argument to move off him. The third, now you're saying, okay, who is our best option? And every GM and head coach has a timer starts on their head the moment they make their first move, and they can be gone. In the NFL now, a year later, I don't think that'll happen. It could be 2, could be 3. You want to win your first year. I think it's very overrated to say, a new GM, new head coach, they want to bring their own guy in. You have a guy who's Aaron Rodgers, who statistically wasn't bad last year. Obviously, a little bit left to be desired with 5 wins. Why not run it back for a year? And if it blows up in your face, you're going to get another year or 2 to build your own thing.
Yeah.
And Woody has shown at least he'll give their head coach and GM time. I think they'd want to run it back. I would put that number, if the first 2 things happen, doesn't retire, takes a pay cut, I think it's 80%. I go the opposite.
Right. And I don't think those first 2 numbers go down, making the overall go down to 20%, to your point. Like, I think it's higher overall than 20%. And what you just said, because you already said, to your point, that he'd be open to talking about a pay cut. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like he wants to retire based on just hearing rumors throughout the league. But man, yeah, and you heard like Rappaport came out and said there would be interest on both sides. Michael Kay was saying the same thing, and he's been kind of anti-Rodgers. So, it's exciting, Matt.
Yeah,
very exciting.
So when Darren Muji gets hired, or when it was rumored he was the final 2 guy, like, I went down a rabbit hole of like trying to find Instagram, like funny photos in college. Like, I'd go and just try to find funny things. The one thing I did find was his Zola page, his wedding registry.
Oh, let's go.
So like when you're getting married, you put a bunch of things on Zola for people to get you. Nothing crazy on here. Pretty standard, bamboo 4-piece coasters for the living room. Fascinating stuff. I thought we'd get something out of it, but he's a pretty offline guy, and
The master of receipts has been stymied. So,
yeah. Oh, it was so fun to make the Aaron Glenn homecoming video, to make the Muji video of all his highlights. It's been a fun couple weeks on Twitter, and now
some good ones.
it's not over yet, because I think what has to happen is you get introduced on Monday, 1:00. You got to take a flight down to Mobile and go to the Senior Bowl. You got to start recruiting now.
Yeah.
So I wonder, there's been years that the Jets haven't gone. I think you need to get on a plane and go and start making relationships with people around the league, with the seniors or juniors that are there. And then you got to have a staff, coordinators, special teams, offense, defense. That's going to start trickling down. Are they going to keep Phil Savage? It's going to be a fun more couple weeks, and then you have free agency in March. So
we're right there.
We're right there already.
We haven't really seen an offseason like this in a while, where maybe similar to post 2015, where you have an aging quarterback who you're not sure what to do with, and you have some assets, but not too many assets. So the difference with 2015, obviously, is you had a good year. You went 10-6. Now you're coming up 5-12. You got to make a decision on Rodgers like you do with Fitz, and then you have some of these younger guys that are going into their next steps of their contracts, which you got to figure out what to do. Not necessarily this offseason, but man, I just don't know. If you're Aaron Glenn and you look at the Jets roster, and we've said it on the show where we're trying not to overvalue the players on the Jets, but just based on league accolades, etc. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you look at the Aaron Glenn and you look at the roster and you say, listen, with Aaron Rodgers, Brees, Garrett, Devontae Adams, that offensive line, and then all the guys on defense with Sauce and Quinnen and Quincy and Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, Michael Carter, all these dudes, Sherwood, if you bring him back, you can't win more than 5 games with that team. I don't know. We'll see. But and you have the 7th pick, the 2nd round pick, and a bunch of, and still probably $25-ish million in cap space to work with. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm very, very excited for it. It's new energy that you need. You get rid of the mopey Joe Douglas, the mopey Saleh. You do a clean flip. Garrett Wilson will be the next big question mark, what he decides to do. We'll make it like a bold predictions video. I'm very concerned on record around Garrett Wilson wanting to return. And I just feel like if the narrative is Garrett Wilson is going to demand a trade, and then everybody is going to be like, you have to pick Garrett Wilson over Aaron Rodgers. You have to. But then sometimes it's not like as black and white as that. It could be Garrett Wilson just wants to go play with CJ Stroud. He's going to leave no matter what. And you can either lose him and Rodgers or have Rodgers. And you want to keep both. And I would do anything to keep Garrett Wilson. But as a new GM, if you get offered 2 1s, are you going to just flip them? It's a weird scenario that I hope we can avoid if Garrett Wilson gets with Aaron Glenn, gets with his team, and says, look, we're going to have Rodgers one more year. You're going to get 1,000 yards, 100 catches automatically. And we're going to try to get a young quarterback in here that you can practice, build around, and then dominate for another 5 years under a new contract. And if you can push him on that, God willing,
it's a pretty good pitch, Matt. It's a pretty good pitch. Listen, I try, love Garrett Wilson. It's just frustrating. Like,
he hasn't requested a trade yet. He has not. I just.
If he does, then I'm going to be annoyed. It's just frustrating. It's like the fan base loves you. Has been nothing but good things. The team goes out and gets a Hall of Fame quarterback, a top 3 to 5 quarterback of all time to throw you the football. You are still, even if his target share went down when Devontae was here, still finished in the top 5 of targets in football. And he seems like a good guy. So if you request a trade, it's just it tampers my thoughts of him, and it is what it is. Well, we'll see. So I think the Jets could just tell him to go fuck himself and keep him for 2 years. But
yeah, and we'll see if he does it. Again, he hasn't done it yet. He has been one of the few young guys that hasn't posted post Aaron Glenn hire, and also him and Rodgers, the connection that we heard about all of 2023 offseason, how they were so good together. Then Rodgers goes down 2024.
And remember, he went down and like they're crying with each other in the locker room. What the hell happened to that?
It's just,
he's like, I'm sorry, kid. It's like fucking Iron Man.
It's
and then
weird.
It's like if Iron Man survived the nuke and then came back to Earth, and Spider-Man was like, "Fuck you."
I mean, it just they do have different styles where I feel like Rodgers is very structured, his way. Get it like if Rodgers' thought process, if you do it my way, you're going to be the best receiver ever. And Wilson's way might be more fluid, unknown to the cornerback that makes it unknown to the quarterback, right? Like there's things that Garrett can do in space or twitchy things to get open that isn't in Rodgers' blueprint, and that causes a little bit of frustration, I'm sure. Also, in the first quarter of the season, Allen Lazard scoring touchdowns, getting a lot of targets. Garrett probably wants a little bit more, and then they trade for his best friend Devontae, taking more away from Garrett. It probably wasn't the perfect match.
I get it, but it's like if Garrett had like 58 catches for like 690 yards, be like, all right, like we're misusing the guy, whatever. Like you still have 100. You still like we're second in the franchise history in receptions. You know, you setting records, 3 straight 1,000-yard years. I don't know. It just feels. We'll see. What the Jets really need to happen is, like you said, get the guys in a room, sit them down. You need Garrett. If Rodgers comes back, you need Garrett here week 1. You start off 2-0 or 3-0, and then you just can't request a trade or you're a scumbag. So like that'll help.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Well,
Man, like I'm wearing my Sanchez today. It's AFC Championship Day.
I love that. And you got the Curtis Martin, your birthday gift behind you.
Like that, there's LT.
Who can I get you for your 29th birthday? Obviously, Bilal is one that stands out. Leon Washington.
Bilal. There's another. I feel like there's another 29.
Leon was, no?
Leon was 29. Yes. Wow. Leon, terrific.
I also have breaking news, not huge news, but Dave Ziegler has been hired by the Titans to be their assistant GM, a name that was thrown around potentially to be a Jet assistant GM.
I wonder what the Titans are going to do.
Raiders general manager. The Titans are in a weird spot.
The Raiders. I saw the Titans said they're going to take a generational player. They're not passing on generational talent. At that point, Travis Henry was like plus 1,000 to go number 1.
Travis Hunter.
What did I say? Travis Henry? Travis Hunter. Travis Henry is the old running back of the Titans and the Bills. And then now Travis Hunter's like plus whatever, 200. So, but then Cam Ward came out and said he's generational, which is funny.
I don't think they're going to take Travis Hunter. I think they're going to take Cam Ward.
I think the quarterback's going 1-2. I agree.
And also Travis Hunter, great player. I actually would have concerns about if you have him be your cornerback 1,
right,
and use him in packages at wide receiver. It's like in the NFL, you have to practice with the quarterback to build something. Maybe you have a system where he plays cornerback on the near side of the field, so he doesn't have to run back and forth. You can argue, you can have him in packages. It just feels like if he goes down and you have him as your number 1 corner and number 3 receiver, if he's hurt, you lose both of those. It's a weird balance.
You get an extra roster spot.
Yep.
Which is humongous. That's another.
Like honestly,
that's a whole
Mike,
other guy.
If you gave me the Jets to draft Travis Hunter,
I don't think it's a negative. I don't think it's a negative. I think it shouldn't be looked at as anything but a positive.
It's just crazy 1-1.
It's extra stuff. It's extra stuff. You can make an argument that you can roster 1 less corner or receiver. I don't know. Plus, Matt, honestly, we're at the games. There's so much time off in between everything.
Fair, yeah.
Like the timeout happens like 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, go catch your breath, and then go cover AJ Brown.
He's the best player in the draft. It's just like a weird unknown, and it's like very similar when you have. It's a horrible comparison, but you have someone like Ohtani, where you're like, is it going to work because he needs a pitch, and he also and then it works perfectly fine, and it'll be great, but
it shouldn't be too overvalued. I agree. I would not take him over if I needed a quarterback. But if it was between him and Will Johnson, I would just take him.
It's also, I think, the Jaden Daniels Bo Nix factor of what just happened last draft makes a team think, oh my God, I need to get a young quarterback and do that. And why pass up if you think Shador or Cam Ward can be that? That really feels like the growing.
It's crazy too. You look at like the big board and it's like, what is Shador overall? Like 40? I saw someone having 40 or 30, 34 or 43. Really? I don't know. So it's like, it just sucks. Like you have to take the guy. But
Shador will be interesting. I mean, he throws such a good ball, and he just took a million sacks, and a lot of them on him. a lot on the Colorado offensive line. Real quick draft point that I made on Twitter that I think is going to happen is Sanders, Ward, and Hunter are gone. So the Jets will automatically, if they want, end up with one of these four guys, and that is Mason Graham, Ted McMillan, Will Johnson, and Abdul Carter. And
nice.
that's four completely different positions, but I would argue high impact positions that you'll either need next year or at a minimum in 2026 will be a need for your team. Corner, receiver, D tackle, and edge. And then people will say, hey, Tyler Warren, who was awesome at Penn State.
Yeah.
Or you could say Will Johnson, just have another offensive lineman. The argument I would make where I've talked about the Brock Bowers.
Offensive lineman?
What happened?
Who was the last O-lineman?
Will Campbell.
Will Campbell, there we go. Sorry, Will Johnson, the corner.
Yeah, it's weird because I made the argument like you have to take Olu over Bowers. And you've seen me on Twitter if you follow along, like bury people that keep talking about Brock Bowers. I never thought it was crazy if you want to take Brock Bowers. I was just like, you have an old quarterback and you have a clear need at a long-term left tackle. If he's there, you take him. And then people will probably say, well, you could have had Bowers and Will Campbell or Olu and Tyler Warren. And honestly, I'd probably argue Olu and Tyler Warren is just as cool. But you don't know where you're going to end up the following year. You may never have a chance, if your team is good, to take another left tackle in the top 11 ever again.
The Jets were supposed to be good.
Right.
Exactly. They're not supposed to draft high this year.
So I'm not like it really feels like a Tyler Warren or who else could you like Will Campbell. You could draft them.
Yeah, Ted is tough because now you really create a logjam at receiver. I don't know how Garrett's gonna feel about that. We gotta send Garrett a note first to make sure he's okay with it.
Yeah, you want to avoid a Tennessee scenario where you trade AJ Brown, you draft Treylon Burks thinking it's going to be perfect. You reset the clock on your number one receiver and it falls in your face. You have to avoid that.
I prefer Mason Graham here. Again, we keep talking about what are the Jets, and we're going to do a video on this tomorrow with mock draft guy. He's going to put it out, but I prefer. What is it?
What time is that?
What did he say? Like 5:30.
I thought we did 5:30 on Wednesday.
No, we did 5:30 tomorrow.
I can't do. I have the dentist.
All right,
maybe could you rip it and I do a different one with him and you just.
If you want, you fucking make me go do a mock draft. You're our mock draft guy. You're Broadway Jets in-house.
I literally have 5:30 dentist on my calendar right here.
All right, we'll figure it out. Talk to the guy. But I prefer Mason Graham. If you look at the Jets' weaknesses last year, I think it really comes down to physicality on defense and good fucking Jesus and discipline. That's such a hard word to remember. Discipline.
Yeah, and you saw the lack of like the come back down to earth year from Quinnen. Not a bad year, but if you have someone next to him and you have real guys at edge.
Yeah, because it's like they got to get more rugged. Like it's just, and hopefully the scheme changes a little bit where it's not so. Well, let's rush four guys and cover with everyone else. Maybe use your number one corner as a number one corner. So that's the exciting thing too. If you want to go get Will Johnson and put him next to Sauce, I'm happy with that. Go sign a fat dude to sit next to Quinnen. But they have a lot of options. They don't have too many holes. People talk about the holes the Jets have, not too many. You know, it depends. If you bring Sherwood back, that takes away some of your money, but you basically have to shore up safety and D-line. You know, you could live with your current cornerback situation. Like if you bring Eccles back, or it's not the worst thing in the world. Most teams don't have two real number one corners. So
the weird thing about the Jets roster is this might be a true free agency where you should penny pinch and you need to get value out of guys like Joe Douglas did every year. This year, you kind of need to do it because you want to bring in Morgan Moses back, but you also need to have a backup swing tackle. Like you need a true like George Fant-esque, but not sign him to be your true starting left tackle. Right. Where you can plug a guy in. You also need help at linebacker. You do need a cornerback number 2. You need to find out what you're gonna do next to Quinnen Williams. And like edge, you need another edge rusher. You truly need another edge rusher.
We do have Jermaine Johnson coming back.
Absolutely, you have Jermaine and McDonald. Like, what is your third?
It's tough if you start. Most teams don't have that though. Remember, we had nothing for 20 years.
But if Will McDonald isn't great against the run, and Jermaine Johnson's coming back from an Achilles, you need like a Jacob Martin signing, but better.
They're gonna have another dude there. You're right. So that's gonna cost money. That's true. But that's why I would stay away from Abdul Carter. It just becomes, unless he could really play on the line, like it just becomes a logjam. Like you can't play all these guys.
Well, I think Abdul Carter you could draft to be like a Micah Parsons, just a linebacker that can do everything.
If there's anyone that's Micah Parsons, you could take them 100 times. Then you could put him wherever you want. Put him a
and you
middle
can have him
linebacker.
start on, like, he was an absolute animal with one arm in the semifinal. And you could have him be like the first,
Shaquille
second
Griffin.
down.
Sick.
Will McDonald pop. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
I'm fired up. They are in a position. It just doesn't. It's not a rebuilding position. Like I don't understand that take. If the Jets are rebuilding now, you have to make like 40 trades this offseason and trade
you
all
rebuild.
your
You
guys.
have to trade Sauce,
Yep.
Garrett, cut Rodgers, trade Devontae.
Yep.
Obviously Lazar will be gone.
Yep.
You would only keep Olu.
AVT.
Like you
Pittman.
can't do that. And I get fans are mad because you won 5 games. It was supposed to be a great year. But
Yeah.
if you were to do a full rebuild, clean cut, Garrett gone, Sauce gone, all these guys,
It would be insane.
your rebuild is not 2025, 2026. At the earliest, you could hope for maybe a 2027 wild card.
2027 wild card, and we will not know who the players are now.
Can I ask a question? Because we're gonna do our tier list video probably early next week. We have to get ready for the games. I have to pick up my buddy.
Wow, you're canceling on me. We were gonna do it right now.
I didn't think we were gonna do a 27-minute video on Darren
This is
Muji.
nice.
You like when plans get canceled, so you can.
I love canceling plans.
It's amazing.
Better. It's like crack cocaine.
So I did a tweet talking about the different eras of the Jet history.
Good tweet. I saw it. It was a good tweet.
So you have the people will argue that I put the second dark age is 2013 to 2020.
Okay.
And then the all break no gas era, 2001, 2004, or 2024. And people are saying that should all be the same era. The reason I don't believe that is I actually think the talent on the 2022, 3, and 2024 Jets would absolutely shit on every single team in the 12 years that preceded it.
Yes.
Even 2015, I think they would be
talent-wise. It's close, but I mean, or talent-wise, I think you're right. But it's I don't know if they would shit on them.
No, I think at 2024, and this will be very unpopular. 2024 Jets play a game against 2015 on a neutral field. I'm taking the Jets as like 6.5-point favorites. The current team.
The current Jets. I mean, listen, I've never been more excited about a team than I was this year. Fought through it all year. It's hard to argue against. Like this is coming into the year, I thought it was the most talented roster that we ever saw. So to that point, sure.
Brick Johnson,
an interesting game.
Undefeated as a people's owner. 1-0. Hired 2 guys.
DJ, yeah.
Feels good.
Fucking Brick Johnson, dude. Yeah, I think we have to start embracing Brick Johnson. Let's just do it. We need to find a way to influence him. We're like Lord Varys and Littlefinger in Game of Thrones.
We tried to influence in 2024 and it just didn't work, but I'm happy we tried.
We did our best. We literally put it all out on the line this year. What else could we have done?
Dude, it's so funny.
What could we have done?
Like, I will actually defend the Tyron Smith signing forever because he did get to be with Olu for 4 months. Like, that will translate into a net positive.
Yeah.
And Mike, every metric, like AVT, beast, Simpson, good year, Tippmann, great year.
It doesn't make sense how we won 5 games. It doesn't make sense. But Matt, to your point, also the Jets did the right thing this offseason. You are they built it up from 2021, which to your point is the literal start of the other era. That's why it is 2021, 2022. You get better. You taste some victories. You're feeling good. 2023 was supposed to be kind of the year, but we even said going into 2023, it felt like the Jets had an eye on 2024 to try to make that championship game run. You're in the offseason going into 2024 and you signed a bunch of fucking awesome, cool veteran guys to supplement your young players. Tyron Smith, Hassan Reddick, Mike Williams, John Simpson, all these guys. And it felt right. They did the right things. They got Tyrod Taylor. Like, it just didn't work. So you don't have to blow up the team immediately. You can continue building towards your goal. All these teams, Matt, get 20 years. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, they get 1 billion chances. We get 1 chance, and then we have to go F ourselves for 5 years? Come on.
Yeah, I always think about that too, Mike. Like you look at the stats, you look at everything. How did you win 5 games? It feels like you're playing Mario Party, and you're winning mini games, and you just land on like a Bowser space, and you lose every star, or a chance square kills you. It's just like you sometimes you just can't do it. Like it's very
There are external factors. Look at that. If you told us before the year the Jets threw for 31 touchdowns and 4,100 yards this year as a team between Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. 31 touchdowns and 4,100 yards. If you told us that before the year, like if you just looked at that stat, you're like, we're winning 12 or 13 games. Like that's what we thought was going to happen. Running game wasn't there, which is I think partially on Rodgers. I'll even admit that.
What do you think about the AFC now with the head coaches that have come through? You have a legit like 8 near elite coaches.
It's tough.
And you got to hope Aaron Glenn could be one of these guys that just could be one of those guys. You got Carroll.
We just need to play normal football with these guys. Yeah, Pete Carroll, great. That was a great move by the Raiders.
Carroll and Rabel. Carroll and Rabel are the net new ones, but
right.
in a league that has Harbaugh, Reed, you got Sean Payton.
Yep.
McDermott's been fantastic.
Yep.
You have the other Harbaugh. You have Mike Tomlin. You have guys like Zach Taylor and Stefanski that have won playoff games before.
Even McDaniel's been fine with the Dolphins.
McDaniel's been fine. AFC South is you have Callahan. You have Cohen, who's an unknown.
Yeah.
D'Amico's won playoff games now.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tough conference.
They've been fine. I thought the Colts were going to suck also. They've been around right on the playoff precipice. It's tough, Matt. It's like we looked at this a couple years ago with the quarterbacks in the AFC, and not that it's not true still. Quarterbacks are tough, much tougher than the NFC. Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, those are probably your top 3 guys, and Burrow are probably the top 4 quarterbacks in football. No,
yeah,
right. And then you have Herbert, Trevor Lawrence is still there, Stroud, Tua led the league in yards. Drake May could be good,
but you don't take advantage of a year where the Bengals are terrible. Like they ended up bouncing back, but they just don't take advantage of a down year from Burrow. But the one thing that I think the Jets have shown they can do in 2024 is you beat up on a playoff team like the Texans. Beat up on them. You should have beat the Bills at home. You just should have beat them.
You got to win that game. They played well.
It's like I think about all the time how you and I are going to be 48 years old at a barbecue. Our kids are going to be 13, running around, and they're going to be like, "Tell us about the 2024 Jets." And it's going to be nearly impossible to explain what happened.
We'll pull up a Broadway Jets YouTube channel. It's not right, Matt. I won't be. I just don't know what to say. That was the most disappointing year by far. Of a sea of disappointment. This was the tip of the top. Like 2011, you still went 8-8. You were 8-5. You had a good year. 2016, you came off the 10-6 year, but it wasn't. We were excited for 2016, but it didn't work out. That was tough. 2019 was tough. Coming in with Darnold, all the expectations. Then you got Mono. But man, this was like by far. I never thought the Jets were really going to win 13 games like this.
I think the loss that hurt me the most is like games. Denver was horrifying.
Tough,
Pittsburgh game started off so great. You got dismantled in the second half.
The Pittsburgh game, I was texting people were going to the Super Bowl.
There was games though, Mike, where it's like New England, Seattle, Indy, Miami. Like 4 games that
they're so winnable, Matt. And they played well enough to win. That's where the coaching staff comes in. That's where I keep talking to people where, they're like, "You want Rodgers back?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Well, then what happened?" And not in a dicky way. They're just asking what happened. And it's just the coaching. They just didn't manage any situation correctly. They didn't run the ball the right way. You didn't play run defense the right way. You just like the Dolphins game, they literally lost because of bad clock management at the end. How do they lose those games? Like I'm thinking back, what happened in those games? You couldn't ever get a stop when you needed it. And then sometimes Rodgers made a bad play too, of course.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Defense didn't get a stop when they needed to. Offense didn't get a score when they needed to. But, Mike, the game that pissed me off the most is New England not because of where it was in the season. It's like you had a chance to now win 3 straight and build your own winning streak against New England. And even if you split with Rabel, you won 4 to your last 5. That could turn to 7 out of the last 9, 10 out of the last 12. You can build a run where there's no more bad taste of what the Patriots did to you. You could have been 3-0, and you blew it.
Well,
And
that game was especially sickening because that was in the midst of all the Rodgers hoopla. Oh, he doesn't still have it, whatever. And you're 2-5 in that game, and you outgain the Patriots by like 150 yards. You don't turn the ball over. Rodgers leads a game go-ahead touchdown drive with like 2 minutes left, and then you let Jacoby Brissett go for 80 yards down the field and score a touchdown with no time left, and even had to be reviewed the last play just to bother us more. That was so hard. Matt, Jacoby Brissett had like 500 passing yards this year, and like 80 of them came on one drive to ruin our season for no reason.
yeah, and I do think that the narrative on Rodgers though is swinging back, Mike. You see a lot of these
Oh, it's
accounts.
swinging back. That I told you before, Matt. It's like 80% he's staying. At this point, how does he not stay?
I think at the end of the year, say it was a coin flip between the fan base where it's 50-50, and it was very politicized of 50% you must bring him back, 50% you
Right.
cannot bring him back. Of the 50% that can't bring him back, I would say 30% have now
Yep.
moved to, fuck, you're right. There's no other option. Like let's run this back. And I'll give some. It's funny, you and I have been on that train. I would say you have been like absolutely dialed in on it. I have been tweeting it, and I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's the reach thing or what, but I feel like most people are like actually angry at me when I tweet it. Like the Pittsburgh game, I got murdered, but we've both pushed for it. And now more and more accounts, like I'll give a shout out. Paulie Bruz tweeted today. He's like, I don't give a shit. I'll keep saying it. He's the best option to run it back. If he wants to play him. You know, Nicole Esther is putting out a whole movement to bring him back.
Yeah, she's back. Yeah, my boy Joe Raya wants him back now. But it's like, as the season went on, he played better. So, like, the argument should have been strengthened, which I guess it was a little bit.
Definitely.
So, like, it wasn't because a lot of times stuff like this happens. Like, the Darnold one was tough because 2020 just played so bad. But the point is not like, oh, I want Darnold to come back and throw for 9 touchdowns and 2,000 yards next year. Is that I think that he has something else in him. The point with Rodgers went in the middle of the year, like he was playing fine, but it was not the same as it was at the end of the year. But the thought was, listen, the guy's going to be another year off the Achilles. He could do these things. Let's try it again. And then he plays well down the stretch. And then, then it's like, all right, this is what I wanted to see. This is what I think he'll do next year. And if he does do exactly what he does this year, next year, I think the Jets are going to make the playoffs. So
I get nervous because I feel like I fall in the trap of the AFC, just like we talked about before with the coaches, the quarterbacks. I fall in this trap of, is the hole too deep to climb out of the next year? And look at Minnesota in the NFC. Nobody expected anything from Minnesota, and you win 15 games. Like maybe the NFL is the type of league where things will change on a dime if you figure out quarterback. And the one thing I would say, where we can wrap up here in a minute, is that you look at the win-loss when the schedule comes out every year, right? What games you can win, what games you can lose. And the Jets are a team that if you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, I think the 13 other teams you're going to play are going to either chalk that up to be a tougher game or a tougher win. If you have Tyrod Taylor or a rookie quarterback, I think they look at that game and they'll just throw one on the calendar and move on. And you got to be a team, fuck Will Anderson for coming out and saying, you got to win games against the Jets. And although he's technically right, you need to beat the bad teams. Don't talk about my team. You're 0-2. And I have a very misguided stat where I said he's 0 for 2 with 0 sacks and 2 tackles and 0 quarterback hits. He did get hurt one game.
Matt, the Jets are they beat them 51-19 the last 2 combined games.
Yeah.
So listen, it's just gonna. So the frustrating thing about sports and life, as I'm learning as I'm getting older, Matt, this is nice. This is constructive. People are very, what have you done for me lately? Very, very much so. Where the Jets are 3-1 next year, you're just gonna feel great. And if they're 1-3, it's just gonna suck until they start winning football games. So you're gonna start winning games at some point. It's not gonna happen like this forever. And then when it happens, it'll be fun. But hopefully it happens with the guys that we want it to happen with. Hopefully they keep the players that we like the most, and we'll have an extra sense of fun rooting for them. But we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's gonna be good. I should have brought up at the beginning. We are close to 2,000 subscribers. If
Dude,
you
you
made
waited
it,
40 minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one made it this far. Hey, if you did make it this far, DM us and be like, "Hey, I made it this far." We'll make sure if we don't follow you back, we'll acknowledge, and you're a diehard Broadway Jets listener. I'm trying to think, Mike. Do we need a rebrand in 2025? I like the Broadway Jets name. Do we need a new logo? Do you need to call like our following like the BJs? Like, I mean, we gotta get something.
Let's change it up. We'll change Twitter into X. Listen, I'm down. We talked on the side about ramping up our efforts. This is a good start. Let's try to knock out a couple videos this week. Been trying to hit up some of the former and current Jets players to get them on here. Let's see if Cromartie answered me, Matt. While you're
We
here.
have a really good diehard, like I would say base like 50 people. I think that will click the video the moment we publish it, and we appreciate you. If we don't follow you, we will. Mike, I also want to DM.
Fucking crow. Yep.
There's a former player that I know
Who?
that once requested a trade to a Texas-based team and it might regret it. Maybe I'll be like, "Hey, do you have Garrett's
that's a good
number to
idea.
give advice not to do it?"
Wow.
I'm gonna do that today.
Just
I
do it because
did
if you don't
DM
do
with
it,
this unknown player that had once demanded a trade to Texas and maybe regretted it. I asked him, Aaron Glenn, maybe this player had a short stop with Aaron Glenn, possible reunion. He said, great coach, love that, respect him a lot. That's all he said. So
ask him about Garrett, because if you don't, you're gonna regret it.
I'll send it and I'll DM you. Imagine
we're
imagine
trying
Garrett. Imagine Garrett resigns and then he's like, "Yeah, I reached out to this player not to be named, and we talked a lot, and he gave me a lot of good guidance about." Imagine like we actually were the ones that set that in motion.
Come on, whatever we could do.
And then Garrett will have a bad year, and people will DM me and be like, "Fucking asshole, sandwich boy." It's so funny when people. I have so many receipts, and I don't pull them all the time because I do it too much. But I have people that will literally be like, "Fuck you" for Mike Williams, and I'll have a tweet from March 14th where it's like, "I love you so much. I will." They were very happy back then.
That was Mike Williams was a good move. It's exactly what we wanted.
Never had a chance though. It felt like he had like the catch against Tennessee, big third down play.
Yeah,
you're like maybe
he had
this
a nice
is
game
it.
against New England.
He never had a touchdown, right?
No, just didn't work out. Which was it worked. I mean, listen, if you're gonna get Devontae Adams, that's fine. Man, Devontae Adams is so good. They can't. You got to keep that guy too.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
I got to run, buddy. This game's about to start.
All right, homie.
All right. If you made it, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back. Have a go, buddy.
Peace out.